All right. Well, so today we are going to make taco bowls. And with that, we're going to also make a nacho cheese sauce that's super simple to make. You can make it more complicated, but we're going to keep it super simple today. And then we're also going to make air fried salsa. I think you're going to love that. It's smoky and delicious and completely different, super simple to make. So before we get going, if you have any questions, we got to do a little housekeeping here. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. If you have any comments, any tips that you might have, go ahead and put those in the chat. I would love to hear from you. And then I will try to answer as many as I can after I finish showing the food. I can't see right now what the questions are. So, you know, because I'm so far away from the webcam. But we're going to get going now. Because I have had to set up in the dining room on my table, I might not have gathered everything, so I might have to pop back and forth. And you got my chandelier there. You'll have to forgive me for that. But we're going to start with the air fryer salsa because I want to get that going before we do the taco meat. So I have beautiful tomatoes from my farmer's market. I've talked before in my videos, if you've ever heard me talk about my CSA, my community supported agriculture. So if you have one in your area, I highly recommend it. He's fantastic. He just tells me what he's got that week, and I tell him what I want of it, and then I go pick it up, and it's fresh and phenomenal. And you don't have to worry about all of the lettuce scare that everybody else is scared about because his stuff is nice and fresh and clean. So I'm just using my tomato knife. I'm taking out the center because I just don't want to air fry that. You could absolutely keep it. And yeah, I'm throwing it away today. You could compost it. My compost is in the other room, so I'm just tossing it for this video's sake. And some of these tomatoes have seen better days. They've been sitting on my counter for quite a while. These are 3 weeks old, I think. So that's why you're seeing a few. But this salsa, it's not going to matter at all. And just going to take those out. And I'm going to make quite a bit. You can make as little or as much as you want. This is a really loosey-goosey recipe. And you do, because we're not going to can this or water bath or do any of that stuff. So it's only going to last a few days in the fridge. You want to get through this as quick as possible. So we're just going to chop these tomatoes, and it doesn't have to be much because we're not really fully cooking them. We're just going to get a good char from the air fryer on these. Now, if they're super juicy and you wanted to take the time to take the seeds out, go for it. But I'm not going to, since we are doing this live. All right. And then I've got my air fryer here, so I'm just going to throw these in. And I do have a soupy little mess here on my counter, so I'm going to mop that up here in a second. And like I said, it can just be chunky because we're going to blend these after we get the char on them. So it doesn't have to look good. It doesn't have to be perfect. Go quick. But look at your hands when you're cutting. You don't want to cut a finger. This little tomato knife is super sharp. Okay, let me wipe that down just real quick so I don't get tomato juice all over. All right, 2 seconds while I wash. And I've mentioned these towels before in my videos. They are phenomenal. They're made from bamboo, and they are reusable paper towels up to, I think it was 50 times, something like that. They're just amazing and really save you on paper towels and save the environment. So they're awesome. I love them. You just wash them out. You can wash them with some dish soap and then let them air dry. Now I have washed these peppers already. These are just sweet Italian peppers, again from my farmer. All I'm going to do, because the seeds aren't hot on these, they're not, he calls them a sweet. I don't know. They're not that super sweet. They're just really flavorful peppers. But I'm going to rip out the membrane really easily. There we go. And these, I really want a lot of skin because this is going to blister and give you that really nice smoky pepper, roasted pepper flavor. So I'm going to leave those pretty intact. This is for our meat. What else? I need an onion. So I'm going to cut up an onion. So that's it. Just pepper, onion, tomato. You could do jalapenos if you like it spicy. You could do a serrano, whatever you want. It all works. And the peppers are phenomenal for circulation, especially the hotter you go, the better it is for circulation. So I can't go very hot, but if you can, go for it. Now I'm going to just quarter. This one's pretty big, so I might do that just a little more. Okay. And then we're just going to throw that in. Now, if you're using oil, you could add just a little bit of oil right here just to get it to blister even better. If you're oil free or you're saving calories, don't worry about it. We're just going to put this at 425. We're going to go 15 minutes, give it a toss, check it out, see how much longer I need to go. So let me put that in. Talk amongst yourselves. There we go. All right, now we are ready to prepare the meat. I had to think about that, our meat. So I've already chopped some onion and some pepper. I've just done a green bell pepper. You can do whatever pepper you like. And it also depends on what you're going to do with this meat. So the recipe I'm going to show you, you could use, depending on how you flavor it, you could make this into spaghetti meat if you wanted to go with an Italian flavor. But since we're going to do Mexican, we are going to season it with our Mexican spices. So whatever pepper, onion, garlic, what else? That's your basic. You could, if you're hiding veggies for family's sake, you could throw some carrots and stuff like that in here, especially if you're doing it for spaghetti, because you want a little bit of sweetness sometimes in that sauce. So, you know, sky's the limit. Add those veggies. I'm just chopping these just a little bit finer. I didn't have the space to be able to do it a while ago. All right. Now, we're going to water saute these. You don't have to. You could use oil if you wanted, but we are going to water saute it. Better yet, one moment, let me turn my water pot on. So I have, if you can see it, a hot pot that I like to go ahead and boil water and get it already heated. That way I don't cool my pan down. I don't have to take time to get it up to temperature. And also, we are going to rehydrate our meat. So if you aren't familiar with TVP, that's what we're working with today. So TVP, I buy it in bulk through Country Life Market, I believe it's called. I'll leave a link if I think about it when we're done. But you can get it on Amazon. I think you can get it at Walmart now. Bob's Red Mill has some. Anthony's has some. So all it is defatted soy. And if you can see that, it looks like hamburger, especially once you hydrate it. So this gives you good texture, as if it were hamburger. This is like the best replica of loose meat hamburger that you can find as a vegan, in my opinion. Now, this is processed, right? So, whole food plant based. If you're 100% whole food plant based, sometimes people get upset using TVP because it has been processed. I need protein because I'm in menopause, so give it to me. If you wanted to go whole food plant based, you absolutely can. I would just swap lentils and mushrooms. You would chop up the mushrooms and even add in some walnuts. Chop them fine, and that gives you that crunch. It's delicious. So you could absolutely do that, but I'm showing the TVP tonight because we're building a high protein vegan taco bowl. So TVP, highly recommend it. I hear my water going. Let me get a bowl to rehydrate the TVP. One moment. All right. And then that water is hot enough. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put a little bit of water in my skillet. Yeah. To water saute. And then I'm going to measure out about, this stuff expands. So I'm just going to go, because it's just the two of us, I'm going to go half a cup. And you'll be shocked. And that's 3/4. Good enough. You'll be shocked. Now, in order to give this even more flavor, because it doesn't have flavor, it's going to taste like whatever you season it with. That's why I was saying you could make this into a spaghetti meat. You can put this into any casserole. You can make your old favorite, you grew up with casseroles that had hamburger in them. You can make it with this instead. Okay, so it's great. Season it how you want. Today, I am seasoning it with my old El Paso copycat blend that I make. It's on intentionallyeat.com. So it's a nice spice blend. And I'm going to put that in the TVP. And then I'm going to rehydrate it. It only has to set for about 5 minutes, if that, because we're mixing it with some other liquid as well. So you just want to barely cover it. I better keep this in case I need more here. Let's put it here. Okay. You just want to barely cover it. I'm going to give it a stir. Let me grab a spoon. Forgot that. So that it all gets incorporated. It's already soaked up and is puffing up now. So, little fun fact, at my church where I used to go, we would make like angel meals for developing countries, and TVP was the meat that you would put in those meals. So very familiar with it. It's a worldwide staple. All right, so we've got our broth going. Now to that, I am adding same thing. I'm adding just a little bit of seasoning because I want it to kind of bloom just slightly. Hopefully I don't sneeze or anything because of those spices. They can be potent. Whew, nice. All right. Now we're going to add our peppers and onions. So with a water saute, you just keep your eye on it. Make sure it still has water. That's our halfway point on our air fryer. And because you don't want it to go bone dry, but you also don't want to drown it. Otherwise, you're boiling your veg. Just want to give it a little. And we're going to let that saute for a bit. Now, while that is sauteing and our TVP is hydrating, look at that. It's already completely soaked it up. But we're going to let it still continue to set just a little bit because we're going to start making our nacho cheese sauce. And I'm going to give it a little dab, and I'm going to put this away so I've got room. Okay, cheese sauce. I'm going to use my Vitamix. You can use your blender. You could use like a NutriBullet, a little small individual one if you wanted. Now, I have an incredible nacho cheese recipe at Intentionally Eat that you will absolutely love. It's just a little bit more in depth, and I wanted to keep this super simple and high protein. That one doesn't have as much protein. Let me drain this. One moment. But the nacho cheese recipe is at intentionallyeat.com. It has oats and roasted red peppers, and it is phenomenal, if I do say so myself. But this one has silken tofu. Now, I always recommend getting organic when you're dealing with soy, okay, because it's so sprayed and modified that you want to get organic when you can. Organic TVP, organic tofu. Silken tofu, if you aren't familiar, there's different types of tofu. There's firm, extra firm. You want firm and extra firm for eating, for chewing, for like replicating meat. But with silken, it makes cheesecakes, puddings, sauces. So that's what we want for our nacho cheese. And you can see you don't really have to drain this one very much at all. And it's super soft. That's why it's called silken. The firm and extra firm, typically, you need to drain and sometimes press. And sometimes if you freeze them first and then press them, one moment, this recycles, you can make it even meatier texture. So you decide, I got to get more water. I can smell it. You know, it has that burning smell. Yeah, there we go. We're going to loosen it up, get all that good flavor off the bottom. There we go. Okay, still cooking. So we have our silken tofu. You can find it anywhere. You can get shelf stable, which is fantastic because you've always got it. It's a great pantry item, loaded with calcium, loaded with protein. Or you can get in the refrigerator section. Okay, to this, we are adding, let me get my notes and get my recipe out. 1 cup of unsweetened soy milk. Now, again, organic when you can, and you want to get unsweetened because you sure don't want to have sweet cheese. And you also don't want vanilla cheese, so make sure it's plain unsweet. This brand is only soybeans and water. That's why I like it. There's nothing else in it to make it thick or pourable or whatever. And this is the kind you want if you're going to make your own homemade yogurt, which I have a video for that. If you want to know how to make yogurt in your Instant Pot, super simple. It's going to save you a fortune. So, and Trader Joe's also has a nice organic soy milk that's super plain like this. Okay, we're going in with a cup. Okie doke. So that was, let me see how much tofu that was, just in case you want to know. 16 ounce. Okay, so 16 ounces of tofu, a cup of milk, and then half a cup of nutritional yeast. Now, if you haven't heard of nutritional yeast, it's fantastic. This is what's going to give it the cheese flavor. You almost can't make vegan cheese without nutritional yeast. It is loaded with B vitamins. It's loaded with protein. You can find it almost anywhere. Again, now, I'm going to count these out since my cup is dirty. One moment. It doesn't matter if I go over. So 8 tablespoons is half a cup. There we go. All right, and this stuff is fantastic. You can sprinkle it on salads. It's great in sauces. It's great on top of soup. It's great on top of popcorn. And you get your B vitamins and you get protein. It's amazing. I highly recommend it. Let me stir. All right, we're going to dash back to this real quick because we're getting sauteed. We're getting nice and dry a little bit. I wish I had an overhead for you. To this, we're going to add the TVP. So let me come a little closer, show you this TVP. So you can see the texture, it's just like hamburger. And if you use something like kitchen bouquet, it would be colored like hamburger. So it's got the texture of it. I would venture to say if you cooked this right, nobody's even going to know. So save yourself some money if you are normally a hamburger person and get this stuff instead. You're going to be high in fiber, high in protein, no cholesterol at all because it's plant-based, it's vegan. All right, we're going to put all that in. It has a little bit of moisture, but we're going to add a little bit more. Let me just make sure it's all stirred in there, all the veg are incorporated. Okay, so to that, I am adding my already previously air fried salsa. So I had some of this on hand. We're still cooking the other salsa, but this is the one I've made previously. I like to add salsa to my taco meat. Now, obviously, if I were making spaghetti, I would not be adding salsa. I would add spaghetti sauce. But we're going to add some salsa. I don't want it super wet. I just want all of the TVP coated with a little bit of the salsa. So you kind of have to eyeball it. I can't give you a specific amount. Maybe I've used a 1/4 cup so far. And I'm just going to give it a little more. So maybe 6 tablespoons. I'm going to turn that down just a little. Yeah. Okay, there's our air fryer. Let me get this cooking. And 2 seconds. All right. So let's see if I can show you this. It's kind of heavy. So you can see they've got a nice char on them. They're looking good. I would say, I would call it good. So we're going to call that good. I'm going to let them cool off. But I would let them cool off before you blend it because you don't want your blender to pop the top. So let them chill just a little bit. And then you can just blend these, add in a little salt, a little lime, a little cilantro if you like it, and you're good to go. But let me put this back for a second. Okay, guys, here we go. Back to our cheese sauce. I'm letting that cook, but before I do, one more second. I'm going to season this even more. It has a little bit of seasoning, but when you're cooking vegan, plant-based, you almost think you're over seasoning, but you're not. Remember, any of the meat, tofu, those kind of things, the TVP, they don't have any flavor. So you have to over flavor it in order to get back to what you possibly remember about eating meat. So we're going in with more garlic. Yeah, I like garlic. You could do fresh. It would be fantastic. We're going in with more onion, even though I have onion in it and onion in the seasoning. It's over seasoned, except with salt, right? You don't want a ton of salt. This is a wood-fired garlic, smoky. It's delicious. I really like it. A little goes a long way, and you may or may not like it. And then if you wanted even more intense tomato flavor. You could go in with some tomato paste if you wanted. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to stir this, incorporate all those spices. Ooh, that wood fired garlic is smelling good. Yum. Okay, we're going to let that cook while we continue with the cheese sauce. All right. So we're going in with garlic and onion here. Remember, I said this one's super simple. You can make it a little more complex tasting by going to intentionally eat and finding that nacho cheese sauce. We're going to add just a little bit. That was onion powder, garlic powder. We're adding just a little bit of apple cider vinegar. And obviously we need some salt. I'm debating, the recipe calls for tahini. I don't have any tahini right now. So I'm debating what I want to use, and I might just skip it all together. If you wanted this to be more of a stringy type cheese, you could add some tapioca starch here. I'm going to skip that. We're going to make this super duper simple. So I'm going to go ahead and go blend this. I'm going to add salt because I didn't bring it with me. 1 second. You definitely need salt for this one. Let me hit the blender. It's going to be some noise. 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. Now, this hamburger meat, it's not hamburger, TVP meat is good for enchiladas. 1 second. There you go. All right, so there we go. Let me rinse this off so I can show you. It's good for enchiladas, taco bowls, taco salad, tacos, burritos. It's fantastic. So you could make it, have it in the freezer, pop it out, thaw it, reheat it, and use it over and over all week long. So you can see this is a thin sauce. You didn't have to add as much or soy milk as I did, but I kind of wanted a thin sauce. This makes a great dressing for salads if you want a cheesy. It also is good soup. If you added some broccoli to this, it's delicious. So let me taste test. And then I'm going to get rid of this spoon. Yep, good. I could probably put a little more salt in it, but I won't. It's good enough. Okay. Since my blender is full of nacho cheese, I'm not going to be able to blend my air fryer. 1 second, I'm debating. I'll blend it in my little one. We'll just do a small amount. Here we go. Losing my steps. All I'm going to do then is I'm going to add in a tomato, some peppers, and some onion. That way you can at least see how I season it. Okay, so you can see I've just got pepper, onion, tomato in that. Let me blend that up real quick in my smaller little blender that fits on my Vitamix. This is a handy dandy gadget too when you can get it to screw on right. There we go. Okay. Again, lots of noise. Okay, keep in mind, I haven't salted it. I haven't added any cilantro, which normally I absolutely would because I adore cilantro. It's underneath my dill there. But you can see, look at that steam coming off that hot baby. It's delicious because it's got that roasted flavor from the air fryer. Love it. Okay. Now, we've got the meat going. We're going to get these taco bowls, yeah, going. So I'm just checking to make sure it's not sticking. Typically, this TVP is so hydrated that it doesn't really stick too bad, but you always want to keep your eye on it. As a matter of fact, if you like your meat a little drier, sometimes I will take this and air fry it and make it just a little bit drier. But today, to it, we are adding black beans. Now, some of you may or may not have heard about complete proteins. Let me drain this while I talk. So, complete proteins, it's just a combination typically of things like the beans and the TVP. Makes a complete amino acid profile for the proteins. Now, if you have beans in the morning, let's just say, and TVP at night, that's a complete protein. You don't have to sweat having it at the same meal. But because I'm packing this full of protein, we got it at the same meal. Same as always, I try to get organic if possible, if the budget allows. We're just going to dump these in. Now, remember, we have to over season. I'm not going to stir them in yet because I want to season these beans. So I'm using my Copycat Old El Paso seasoning again. And I'm going to go in with some more onion and garlic. Beans don't have a ton of flavor, especially when they're out of a can. You could absolutely make these in the Instant Pot or on your stove ahead of time. It would be phenomenal, but I didn't. Now I could add salt here if I wanted to. I kind of like to add salt right at the end, just so I don't over salt. All right. We're getting it. I'm going to turn the burner down just a little. All right. So to this, I have a taco seasoning that I made too. That's on Intentionally Eat as well. So I'm just going to add it as well. It has just a little bit more heat to it. Now, here we go. What am I looking for? Here, I am looking for corn. So I like to add fire roasted corn. You don't have to. So if I were making this, which I am, but I would stop now and I would have this on hand for the week or in the freezer for 2 months. And I would portion this out or cook a double portion so I would have it. And then I could have the tacos, the burritos, the enchiladas, all of that goodness waiting. But because I'm making taco bowls tonight, I'm going to go ahead and add the corn now. Now, I like fire roasted. I guess I could I probably couldn't do this in the air fryer with, you probably could. Okay, I just don't want popcorn, right? I imagine cooking corn and having popcorn. It's probably not true, but I'm just going to add a little bit because this corn is sweet and I don't want a ton of sweetness in my taco. But fire roasted is phenomenal because it just builds that flavor. And then I'm going to add some cilantro underneath my dill. Again, from my farmer. Let's see if I can get to it without getting the dill. I'll cut some off. There we go. Now, normally I would do avocado because I adore avocado and it's a staple. But I just made zucchini guacamole and I'll be sharing that video hopefully this week if I get around to editing it. It's delicious. It's not guacamole, but it is good. It's a very good dip and it's a good way to use up zucchini from your garden. And I'm going to top the taco bowl with this zucchini mole, whatever you want to call it. But let me stir this in, get that corn cooked. And then we're going to make a bowl. Okay. So I like to make rice in the Instant Pot, have a whole bunch, put it in the freezer. That way I've got it. I'm not that big of a rice eater, but my husband is. So I'm just layering a little bit in the bottom of my bowl. And then I'm gonna switch out. Love this scoop. It's phenomenal. So I'm going to scoop some of that TVP with my air fried salsa, the corn, the black beans, the onions, the peppers. And then I'm going to pour a little bit of my air fried salsa. And I'm going to pour a little bit of my cheese sauce. Boom. And there we've got dinner. I could top it with my cilantro. And I'm going to top it, clean spoon, with a little bit of my zucchini guacamole, whatever. Zucchini mole. I don't know what to call that thing. If you think of something, let me know. So there we go. We have a complete protein, 50 grams of protein, plant-based protein, cholesterol-free, low fat, incredible taste because we layered all of that seasoning in every single layer. I cooked the rice in broth. We cooked the TVP in broth and in seasoning. We added the salsa to it to layer it. We've added all of those seasonings. You've got a dinner everybody's going to love. Nobody's going to know that TVP is soy instead of hamburger. Try it out. Let me know what you think. Tell me what they say. All right. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me turn this off and let me go look at the chat. Thank you, Erla. I appreciate that. Thanks for watching and tuning in. If anybody has any questions, feel free to continue to think about it. If you go and cook this, let me know. You can still add that to the comments. I will check them. I always check all the comments. And we'll call that a night. That's a dinner. All right. Thanks for joining and intentionally eat. See you in the next one.